Hello, everyone. I'm Waco Ware. Welcome to episode 3 of the Outside Within podcast. Today I'm talking to Captain Keith Love of Texas Blue Water Safaris. It's a spearfishing operation out of Surfside, Texas. These guys run out into the Gulf and hunt pretty much the biggest and the baddest that's out there. And it was good for me to ask a bunch of questions, about a topic I've always been really curious about. So here it is.
The Outside Within podcast.
The Outside Within podcast.
Okay, I'm here with Captain Keith Love of Texas Blue Water Safari. And thank you for being here, Keith. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good, and it's no problem. It's my pleasure.
All right, man. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. How long you been spearfishing?
I've been spearfishing since I was 12, off and on, just kind of playing in some of the little rivers around here and just shooting spade fish at the close rigs early on. And I really didn't get into the bigger fish until late teens, early 20s. And since I was 12 years old and first did it, I was hooked.
Cool. How long have you been running your business, Texas Blue Water Safari?
I've been doing that since 2008.
Okay, cool. And you guys are located out of Surfside, Texas? Is that where y'all live, or is that where y'all launch?
That's where I keep the boat. That's where the marina is. I live nearby in Angleton.
Oh, okay, cool. And what type of boat do you have?
It's a 36-foot contender. It's the fish around version. It's got a little cabin for doing overnight trips and multi-day trips.
Yeah, I've been on an offshore trip on a contender. Those boats are really nice. Sure. So some of the trips that y'all do, how far are y'all going out? And you say you're doing multi-day trips?
Yeah, that's correct. Most of the time it's just day trips, 10, 12-hour trips. On those trips, we run anywhere from a few miles offshore out to 70 miles. And then on the multi-day trips, we might run more than 100 miles offshore.
Really? And are y'all going over rigs or rocks or wrecks? What are y'all doing out there?
Yeah, we spear over all kinds of things from wrecks to rocks and rigs mostly. But as you might know, we're losing a lot of our oil rigs. We barely have any compared to what we used to have. So we're fishing a lot of different weed lines, shrimp boats, just about anything.
Yeah, what's with the rig? Is that a federal program where they're trying to get rid of a lot of those?
Yes, Obama has an executive order to any rigs not in production must have a contract for removal. And so a lot of the rigs that were idle out there just kind of sitting out there had to be removed, and so they've been taking them out like crazy really ever since the oil spill.
Okay, wow. So I saw on y'all's website y'all also do freshwater.
The freshwater, a lot of Texas is pretty low visibility, but there's a few lakes in Texas that are really good, like Lake Amistad. It's got great visibility for a lake, and it has some really big fish in it, from alligator gar to different species of carp and spotted gar. drum, and longnose gar, and they can be fun to shoot. And they legalized noodling for catfish, so
Yeah, so
that's always fun.
so y'all can legally shoot the catfish with spear guns too?
We can't shoot them, but we can noodle them.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't realize y'all couldn't shoot them, but okay. And whenever what's y'all's best seasons as far as going offshore? Do y'all go year round, or is there certain times of year that are better than others?
It all depends on the fish species, but the best time for most people to go is July and August, when the weather's the calmest on average and the water's the clearest. So for most people, that's usually when they like to go, is during the summer. But the people that are real diehard and want to get the big fish, they come in from all over the world for to come over here and spearfish during the wintertime, because we have I would say the best wahoo fishery in the world, where we can get a lot of big wahoo just about on any given day out here in the wintertime. So the wintertime is definitely the time to come for big trophy fish, but the weather can be pretty bad. So we have to play for weather windows in between cold fronts.
Yeah, how many days a year do you think that y'all are out there? I mean, it's all weather related, but on average, how many days do you get to fish out there?
I've cut back this year, but normally every calm weekend of the year, and then some weekdays. It all just depends on the weather, but I would say probably 50 times a year, 50 days.
Yeah, that's not bad. So, what are some of the techniques y'all using out there? Are y'all free diving and scuba diving, or mostly free diving?
It's a little bit of both. During the wintertime, it's just about all free diving. And because people were going after open water pelagics, and it's just better all around to get them free diving.
Yeah. What are some of the dynamics, as far as between free diving and scuba diving? As you the captain, what do you have to keep in mind whenever you got free divers as opposed to scuba divers? Do you have both at the same time, or do you only do a scuba group and only do free diving group?
At certain times when the conditions are fairly calm and not too much current, we can have both when we're tied up to a rig, whereas some of the free divers are hanging around the boat and just down current of the rig, and then the scuba divers are inside the rig down a lot deeper. And I just got to keep an eye on all of them and who I have down and how long they've been down.
Mm-hmm. Are you a pretty good free diver yourself?
I would say so. I'm not I'm not a champion freediver by any means, like any kind of depth records or anything like that. But for hunting, I would say I'm pretty good at hunting.
How long can you hold your breath?
Oh, I haven't done that in a long time, but my best was 5 minutes and 15 seconds.
Wow.
Doing a static breath hold.
Yeah. Wow. All right, man. Well, what about depths? How deep can you go? Free diving. What would be probably the max you would want to go down?
To hunt, I would say, as long as I'm having someone watch me, I could probably go to 115 feet and hunt at that level. But most of the time, the conditions aren't that great to get that deep, so I normally hunt 60 to 80 feet regularly.
Yeah. And y'all use like chum to pull the fish up that high? How do y'all, are they automatically, when you pull up to rigs and stuff, are they at that level?
It all depends. There's so many different each day is different. Sometimes a lot of it depends on the thermocline at a rig. How deep that thermocline is. Especially during the summer, those fish like to stay below the thermocline. So, depending on what the thermocline is, some days we do have trouble with freedivers not being able to get down to the fish, the certain type species of fish that we're looking for, especially like amberjack and fish like that. They like that cooler water.
Will they come up to chum?
Sometimes they will, or a lot of times if you have a one guy who's a really good free diver, and one guy who's a fairly beginner, like he should follow around that good free diver, and as soon as that good free diver gets down to depth and shoots a good fish at depth, even if it's an amberjack, all the other amberjack will follow that fish up to him when he pulls it up, so that other free diver can get a shot at a good fish himself, and it's usually a bigger amberjack that's following the fish.
Why did the amberjack do that? Is there a theory behind that, or are they just curious, or what's going on with it?
I would say curiosity, and they seem like a big bully. They like to bully wounded fish and stuff like that. So.
Okay. Well, so let's talk a little bit more about some of the structures that y'all are. You say mostly it's rigs that y'all are fishing, but you do also do some wrecks. Or is the Gulf? Does it have? Is there a lot of structure out there to choose from, or y'all?
Not. There's not a whole lot of natural bottom. It's the natural bottom is mostly just silt, mud, sand. But there are some natural reefs out there. There's some rocks out there, and then there's some wrecks. Hurricane Ike changed around a lot of our wrecks and buried a lot of them. So we don't have a whole lot, but there's always something to spear out there. So you never know what you're going to come across, whether it's a floating log, a weed line, or shrimp boats. They all hold fish.
Mm-hmm. So when y'all go out there, y'all just start looking for stuff like that, and then you check in each area, or
yeah,
okay,
and yeah, where the fish have been, I kind of get an idea, and also what fish we're targeting. It changes throughout the year what fish we're targeting.
Okay, yeah, we're going to get into fish here pretty quick, but I wanted to talk a little bit about regulations. Is there regulations any different than they would be with rod and reel out there, or y'all have to follow certain guidelines and stuff?
Yes, there is. There's a little bit of it's a little tricky. There's some gray areas on the some of the regulations, state versus federal waters. They've been going through problems. I guess you would say the federal regulations, federal regulators versus the state regulators, and whereas Texas disagrees with some of the federal regulations, but the majority is inside 9 miles is regulated by the state, and then out past 9 miles is regulated by the federal government. But for the most part, the regulations are the same with spearfishing versus rod and reel fishing. Besides, like billfish, we're not allowed to shoot billfish, and we're not allowed to shoot sharks.
Okay, and that's in state or federal waters?
Correct.
All right. And what is there any areas out there that are no spear gun zones, or can you?
Yes, there's the Flower Gardens Banks National Marine Sanctuaries.
Mm-hmm.
There's two main Flower Gardens sanctuaries, and then there's one that's a little closer. It's 70 miles out, and it's Stetson Bank, and that's closed off. That's part of the sanctuary.
When you say Flower Gardens, is that coral, or what is?
Yes, okay. It's one of the most pristine coral reefs in the world.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah, most people don't know it exists right off Texas.
Mm-hmm. Can they fish rod and reel out there, or are they just close?
Yeah, they can. There's special regulations to fish rod and reel, but you can fish rod and reel.
And those are what, 70 miles out, you said, or there's two separate?
The first one is 70, and then the other two are a little over 100.
Okay. And like what depth of water are those?
They come up to about 55 feet is the shallowest they come up.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know there was anything that shallow out there, that far. I thought everything was pretty deep, but okay. And let's talk a little bit about the spear guns y'all use. Is there certain types that y'all shoot, or you shoot a bunch of different types?
Yeah, it's a bunch of different types. Just like when you're choosing different game animals hunting on land, you have a different weapon for different fish. Like we have these giant 6-banded guns that we use for hunting stuff like tuna and wahoo. We're shooting big fish at longer ranges, and they're shooting a 72-inch long spear with 3/8 diameter, and they have 6 bands, and they weigh about 20 pounds each. And then other times when we're shooting at the rigs, we use usually a 2-banded gun from about 100 centimeters to 130 centimeters, and that shoots a little smaller diameter shaft and a little bit shorter shaft as well.
Yeah. What kind of range do guns like these have? How far out can you shoot the bigger gun?
Some of the manufacturers like to advertise 30 feet, but the majority, you don't want to shoot any more than 15 feet.
Okay. So
underwater. The whole name of the game is to get as close to the fish as possible without spooking them.
Yeah.
And so, we use things like flashers, which is pretty much lures, hookless lures, and use different ways to attract fish.
To get them as close as you can, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. And some of those smaller guns, can those shoot out to 15 feet as well, or you got to get
a little smaller range on those.
Yeah.
A little shorter range. And as you go smaller, your range goes down and your power goes down.
How fast can they shoot? How many feet per second, do you know, right off the top of your head?
Oh, I wouldn't even be able to tell you that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's interesting. And now these spears y'all are shooting are attached to some type of line. What kind of line is it?
We usually use cable out here just because we have big fish offshore Texas, and we have the oil rigs the fish like to go in them. And if you're using mono, cut your line really easy. And we use, they're set up different ways. Sometimes, like with scuba divers, the lines are connected to the guns, or they have what's called a riding rig, which is like a bull rope that it's attached to. That way, if the fish is too big, they have a couple wraps on their left hand with the bull rope, they can just let it go. Or they can clip it off to the oil rig and go back up and go back down later with another tank.
Oh, okay. Do y'all what if if it's cable and you get wrapped up in it or something? Do y'all have what are you carrying, cutters, or I figured you'd carry?
Yeah, there's a special a knife that a lot of people use that has a cable cutter on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's interesting too. I never knew they used a cable. I figured it was some kind of rope or something. I don't know. But so so everybody that goes down carries a dive knife, obviously, right?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I saw on your on y'all's website, I think it was a video where the guy, once he got the tuna subdued, he used a knife to dispatch it. Is that a pretty common practice, just to keep it from freaking out?
Yeah, that a lot of times. Sometimes the fish are too big. You got to just cut their gills out and let them bleed out, because you're not going to be able to get a knife into their brain.
Yeah,
it's just too thick of a skull.
Yeah. And what about like wetsuits? Are y'all using those? I mean, obviously when the water's cold, but what temperature does it get down to before y'all start slapping those on?
Usually about this time of year, when the water's in the 70s, we start using wetsuits. And there's so many different brands of wetsuits. Some are a lot better than others. Open cell versus closed cell. There's a lot of. It's hard to sometimes like a good 3 mil might be just as good as a cheaper 7 mil.
Yeah, and I mean, I always figured that you would float in a wetsuit. Having to wear weight belts and stuff with those, or they make specifically designed ones that'll get y'all down there.
Oh, you'll have to wear a weight belt. Yeah, most people wear a weight belt even without a wetsuit.
Okay, that just helps them, get down to depth quicker and.
Yeah, you want to be neutral at 30 feet.
Okay. And fins, are there specially designed ones for hunting, or is it just basically regular scuba fins?
Oh, definitely specially designed ones. The freediving fins are about 3 times as long.
Oh, okay.
And they're usually made of either carbon fiber or fiberglass.
Huh.
And then they also have them where they're like, a lot of them have like a shiny or fish print on them, so they look like a school of fish going through the water, but that can be dangerous with the sharks.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to get into, obviously sharks, Let's talk about those first. I've seen some videos, I think it was even on y'all's website, where these sharks were actively feeding, and there's a lot of them. You guys are hovering above them. Have y'all had any close encounters, or is the shark issue a hype? Or do they want anything to do with y'all, or they talk to us about sharks for a while, if you would?
Okay. Yeah, they definitely are very curious about us. We've never had anyone get bit where they needed to go to the hospital or anything like that. They've had some test bites and on their gear, especially, and their fins. But yeah, there hasn't been any. No one's needed to go to the hospital from a shark attack, but I would say we've definitely had some very close calls. There's a lot of sharks out here in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, they're eating a lot of y'all's fish too, huh? I mean, obviously you're spearing fish. There's blood in the water, and some of these sharks, man, these bull sharks and stuff like that, they're pretty big. So they don't none of them mess with you at all. I mean, that'd be my.
Oh yeah, you always want to keep a lookout. You keep your head on a swivel, not only for fish but for sharks too. They're wanting to get the sneak attack on you, and so you always want to be able to keep an eye on them, and you never really want to swim away from them.
Yeah, you want to swim towards them, huh? I guess that's like
you want to show dominance, and you never want to let them get your fish. As soon as one of them gets, you think giving them a fish is like it's going to make them go away. All it does is turn them into a feeding frenzy, and then it brings all the bones breaking in the fish and all the cutting. When the shark grabs and starts tearing into a fish, just brings all the other sharks, and they just start biting anything that's near them.
So if you don't give it to them, what do you do?
You gotta hold it close to your body. Most people are real nervous about that when they see sharks that are going after their fish, but you gotta just show dominance and hold it close to your body and act like it's yours.
Is that something y'all have to do often?
Yes. Yeah, you want to, I don't know if you've seen the videos of the wahoo. We're trying to get to the wahoo before the sharks do, and then once we have it in our hands, in our possession, and you hold it close to you, they don't ever come try to attack it from us. They don't ever try to grab it from us.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I wanted to try spearfishing, but now I'm starting to get second thoughts. But yeah, I mean, I would figure they could hear your heart beating, they could smell your adrenaline. I mean, all of that, huh?
Oh yeah, you can tell. They usually go after the person that's the least bit experienced and is the most nervous. Yeah. If someone's nervous about sharks like that, they're gonna figure out who it is.
Wow. And
they're gonna be circling that person.
Yeah. And what types you got? Bulls. You got what's the most what shark type is out there the most that y'all see?
I would say the silky shark out towards a little bit deeper water. They swim in large packs, and they're very curious and aggressive at the same time. Mm-hmm. And I would say that's definitely the most common one. And then you also have bull sharks. And we've seen them all out there. We've had tigers, bulls, just about all the ones you can think of, including great white. And
y'all have seen a great white while y'all were in the water?
I haven't personally, but the guys we were diving on the rig with got pictures of one.
Wow. And how far out was that? I mean, did the great
white... That was 50, I want to say 55 miles out in 130 foot of water.
Yeah. Huh. Okay, so what about whale sharks? You guys dive with those? You see them quite a bit?
Yeah, we see them, I wouldn't say quite a bit, but some days we just, one day we had three, throughout the day we had three come out and check out the divers.
Huh. Is there a certain time of year those are around more than...
The scientists say that they're in our part of the Gulf, usually in the summer, and they migrate south for the winter.
Okay, so
but I've seen them as late as November.
I'll bet you that's pretty neat jumping in with one of those. I've seen it on video and stuff. But so let's talk about fish. Which ones do y'all? I mean, obviously y'all are hunting all different types, but what are some of the ones that y'all actually target more than others?
I would say one of the most prized fish species in Texas is the red snapper, but we get a pretty short season for them lately. But this year we got a 45-day season for people with charter boat permits. So the charter guides got a 45-day season, and that's probably one of the most sought after fish species, just because you don't have to go too far for them, and they're just one of the best eating fish around. And just everyone, they're pretty easy to catch on rod and reel, so everyone really targets them. It can be a traffic jam out there at those rigs during snapper season.
Yeah. What do you get? You get 2 in federal water and 5 in state? Is that right?
Yes, but the thing about it is with charter boat guides, since our boat is federally permitted, we can't fish. We don't get that state water rule.
So
we only get the 2 per person in federal waters.
Okay, so but you see, you guys can pick and choose, the bigger ones to shoot, and whether the guys up on the rigs or,
Yeah.
Okay, and what about mahi? Is there a lot of them out there? Is that something y'all target a lot?
Yeah, I wouldn't say we have a whole lot of big ones, but we have a lot of little chicken dolphin, and people can have fun with those, shooting those.
Mm-hmm.
They can have a little bit of trouble aiming and hitting them. The wave action just from them being on the surface can throw their shot off, but they can be fun around the weed lines and around the shrimp boats and around the floating logs.
Yeah, how many of those are y'all allowed to keep?
That's unlimited.
Really?
But we don't really sit there and load up the boat with many. We usually don't get a whole lot of
them. Huh. Okay. Now that the amberjack, those are a deeper fish, like we were talking about earlier. That somebody's got to go down and get one. I know they kind of shut the limits down on those a little bit.
Yeah.
Are y'all still seeing a lot of them out there?
Yeah, in the wintertime, they'll come all the way up to the surface. And since they shut the limits down, there's really a lot of them. A lot of big ones out there now. And but yeah, during this time of year, and as we get even colder, it'll get better for amberjack. And people that can dive 40 feet will be able to get them. Now, fighting them is another story.
Will they pull pretty hard or what?
Oh yeah, you want to have a few good buoys.
Yeah.
You don't want to have that the shooting line attached to the gun. We can talk a little bit about the float line system, how we do free diving.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's get into that. Let's talk about a few more different fish though, and then I want to get into some of those systems y'all are using like that.
Okay.
So the amberjack, yeah, and those are big, strong fighters. And wahoo, I've seen some of the wahoo on y'all's sites. Man, those things are mad. I never realized y'all shot wahoo that size. And you say Texas is probably one of the best fisheries for them. I never realized that either.
Oh yeah, fishermen have brought in some as much as 150 pounds, and we don't really have the wahoo fishing because it's in the middle of winter. Not many people go after them, so there's not a huge fishery for them because of the weather and how far you have to run offshore. So I know that there's some world record wahoo out here. I've seen them. It's just a matter of landing them.
Will they swim up pretty close to you?
Fairly close. For them, we really want to use flashers. We have flashers on fishing line that are attached to the buoy, so when the waves hit the buoy, it jigs them up and down, kind of like little jigs. Mm-hmm. And then we have throw flashers where we throw shiny objects to make the wahoo swim where we want them to swim. And then instead of swimming to the fish, we swim after the flasher, and it makes the wahoo think we're about to get their easy meal, and they want to beat it to us. So instead of them being scared of us, they're trying to beat us to the flasher, thinking that they're going to get an easy meal.
Man, you guys get pretty psychological out there with sharks, wahoo, everything. Yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty cool. What about grouper, man? Can y'all get close enough to those, or are they legal to shoot? I mean, I know there's a bunch of different types. But.
Yes, we get grouper. For the most part, that's done scuba diving, just because they're out here. We don't get too many groupers shallow for some reason in our part of the Gulf, the groupers stay pretty deep. They usually stay over 100 feet down, and usually deeper than that.
What types are you allowed to shoot?
Just about all the groupers except the Goliath grouper and then depending on the season, the other types of grouper. But the only one that we have that's absolutely off limits is the Goliath, and we don't really see too many of those this side of the Gulf.
Yeah, I remember a long time ago I'd gone offshore and somebody on the boat caught a strawberry grouper, and everybody on the boat was like going crazy over that. Supposedly it's one of the better eaten fish in the world. I've never tried it. Do y'all see those sometimes?
No, we don't get too many strawberry grouper. I don't. You might be talking about a fish that we call rockhind. I think some people call them strawberry grouper, but it's kind of like a spotted grouper that doesn't get very big, but it's really good to eat.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. It was kind of small. Then it had
spots. Small spotted. Yeah, we see a lot of those. They're hard to shoot because they stay like right in the corners of the rig, and if you shoot a big gun into it, you're gonna get stuck into the oil rig with your spear. So a lot of people will use pole spear, something that doesn't shoot very far and won't like penetrate the rig.
Yeah. What's a Hawaiian sling? Is that a type of like I don't know. I've always heard that term, but never knew what one was.
Yeah, it's similar. It's like similar to a slingshot. It's like if you were to slingshot a spear.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But nowadays they don't really use them a whole lot. They've gone to people use pole spears or spear guns. But Hawaiian slings just wouldn't work too well out here because the bottom is so deep. You need to be able to retrieve your spear. Usually there's no line on a Hawaiian sling.
Oh, okay.
So you would you'd have to go to the bottom after every shot, and your fish would just be stuck to the bottom with the spear weighting him down.
Yeah, so those are used more like on shallow reefs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, man. What's the deal with triggerfish? Do y'all shoot those? Or are they any good to eat? Or are they?
Oh yeah, they're great to eat. They can be a little bit of a nuisance if you shoot them because they'll come back, and if you put them on your stringer or something, they'll just keep biting you.
Really?
Yeah, and they'll take some pretty good little chunks out of you.
Okay. Wow. And but they are good to eat. That's good table fare.
Oh yeah. Great to eat, a little hard to clean, and really not a whole lot of meat for the fish, so not a whole lot of people target them.
Yeah, they've got a pretty tough hide, pretty much like bootleg.
It can be a lot of work for a little bit of meat, especially with spearfishing because the reloading and taking their fish to the boat, it can be kind of a hassle. So a lot of people target bigger fish.
Yeah, I guess y'all shoot a lot of ling. Those are pretty. Common out there. Plus, they're real curious. They'll swim up close to boats and stuff. Is that correct?
Yeah. We shoot a lot of ling. We've shot some pretty good ones over the years.
How do you know, like, if it's big enough to shoot? Is that something y'all make? Just shoot a big one that way you don't have to worry about it, or can you get a pretty good eye on it and tell?
Yeah, you can get a pretty good eye. Sometimes, like the water conditions, like clear water versus murky water, and just all that, and if you're next to a rig or versus open water, can really mess with your depth perception and how big fish are. It's part of it.
Right. So what about tuna? I see you guys are shooting some of those. Are pretty good size too, yellowfin and blackfin.
That's correct.
Yeah, we've done the offshore thing for tuna, and we've got a pretty good school buzzing, man. I mean, there's probably hundreds of them below the boat. Do y'all do stuff like that? We get them going like that, and then jump in on them? And
oh yeah, that's what we'll chum them up usually before we get in the water.
Yeah, and they'll stick around even when you jump in.
Yeah, they can be a little skittish, but depending on how you get in the water and all that, you kind of just got to slide in instead of just jumping in.
Yeah, and in the yellowfins, y'all seen some big ones come by. I mean, they'll stick around with y'all like that.
Oh yeah, we've shot them up to 245 pounds.
Okay, I guess now's a good time to get into the systems y'all are using, because how do you fight a fish that size with a spear gun line in the water? I mean, so obviously you are attaching them to a buoy, or what? Are you shooting them multiple times? How's that work?
Yeah, we have so on our blue water guns, we have the line system. It's not attached to the gun anyway, so it's like when you shoot off the spear and it's attached to the cable, then it's attached to a float line, which is a thicker line, and then that you have about 100 foot of we call it float line, and then you have, depending on what type of fish you're hunting, you might use 2-3 buoys, and they're buoys with that are inflated to 25 psi, so pretty high psi, and we use those with clips on them to work the fish back up. And at first we let the fish just fight them for a while until it wears itself out, and then we work on pulling them up with tuna clips. We slide the line through there, so that way it's kind of like our drag system.
Mm-hmm. Are those buoys attached to the boat somehow, or is he free swimming with them?
Free swimming, and you're holding on to the buoys. If you're getting drugged, you're gonna just grab onto the last buoy and go for a ride.
Okay.
Part of the rules with, if you're going for any kind of record or tournament or anything like that, you can't be assisted by the boat.
Okay,
so you gotta ride them or catch up to the buoys.
All right. And what if you didn't happen to get a very good shot on them? Would you try shooting them again, or is that just part of the deal? Just try and get them up with a bad shot?
Oh yeah, you'll try to get them up. You want to bring them up shallow enough where you can get another shot in them, because your adrenaline's going and you're not able to. I mean, you're fighting a big fish. It's a lot of work, and so you're using, on the second shot, you usually use a gun with a reel. And it's like the smaller ones, about a 130 with 2 bands I was telling you about. Mm-hmm. And then you'll just swim down and shoot it with a gun with a reel. It's usually pretty wore out by the time you get a second shot. But whenever you get them close to the divers, they can flip out, and the spear will rip out of them. So a lot of times we do get a second shot when it is a bad shot.
A 250-pound tuna, man. If y'all have killed it, does it try to sink?
Oh yeah, it takes a lot of work just to swim it up.
Yeah.
When you're trying to take a picture with it, you're really fighting to not sink with it.
Mm-hmm. So once y'all get it close to the boat, they grab it with a gaff or whatever and pull it aboard.
Yeah.
Okay. What's the biggest fish y'all have killed out there, man?
That's a hard one. I would probably say the tuna, 245-pound tuna.
Yellowfin.
We've had to shoot a shark for it was about to attack someone, mm-hmm. but we just shot it, and we didn't take it back or anything to weigh it or anything like that.
Yeah. Do they allow y'all by law to shoot a shark in self-defense, I guess?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like the bear attacks, I guess, in Alaska.
Mm-hmm. Do y'all guys see bluefins out there ever?
We have. Not any. I haven't seen any huge ones personally, but I've seen some smaller, real small little footballs.
Do they shoot those bigger ones, man? Those 800-900 pounders with spears?
They have in off New Zealand. They've shot them before, and they've shot them off Mexico before.
All right. Okay, man. So, like, once you get a bunch of fish in the boat, do y'all have like big ice chest on board, or how do y'all get them home?
Yeah, depending on if we have a giant, like a fish the size of that 245-pound tuna, we would use a fish bag.
And how does that work?
It's like a cooler that can be stowed away, and you only have to bring it out if you have a big fish. It doesn't work as good as a ice chest, but it'll work for a couple of days.
Okay.
You can put ice in there with the fish and zip it up.
Huh. Okay. All right, man. And how big of seas can y'all go out on? I mean, have you been out on some pretty gnarly stuff, or is it just?
Yeah, we've been caught out in some bad stuff. The older I get, though, definitely, it seems like the size I go out in is smaller and smaller.
Mm-hmm.
But we try not to. I mean, it all depends on the trip we're going on. If we're going on an overnight trip and running far, we don't want anything over 3 foot, just because that's a lot of pounding on the boat going that far, and you have to take it so slow.
Yeah. Can y'all forecast out pretty well, 2 or 3 days out?
Yeah, fairly good. And but still, the weather forecast, as you know, the weatherman's wrong a lot. So sometimes we do get caught out there.
Yeah, I hear you. And what about the current, man? I mean, doesn't that sweep y'all away? Are y'all attached to the boat somehow, or are you just going to swim against it?
Swim against it. Sometimes we just live boat it where the boat's it just keeps doing drifts and boat keeps picking up. Like I'll keep picking the guys up in the boat.
Oh, okay. And then y'all go back to the
And
original
then
spot.
drop them off current and do another drift.
Okay. And the weather, are y'all having to deal with storms or anything like that while you're out there? Have you done that before?
Yeah, sometimes we've gotten caught in some pretty bad storms. But we've rode it out and we're able to make it through all of them.
Okay. Have y'all ever had any issues with, any type of emergencies or, first aid events or anything like that? I can imagine.
Yes. A few years ago, my girlfriend had just learned to scuba dive, and she was going down. She had been a few times, but she was going down. We were going over a high spot, and we don't know if she forgot to turn her regulator on all the way. If you don't turn it all the way, it can be hard to breathe at depth if you don't open it up all the way. And she got down there and was signaling that she needed to she was having a problem and that she needed to use mine. So I gave her my Octo, the spare, and she started breathing off that. And instead of purging it or exhaling first to get all the water out of the mouthpiece, she just inhaled all that water and then freaked out at 90 feet and shot up to the surface and went unconscious up there. I tried to get her back down, but she was in too much pain. And then by the time, before I knew it, she was completely out. And then we had to drag her on the boat, and we radioed Coast Guard. And we were able to meet Coast Guard 80 miles. We were 140 where we were at that spot, but we met them at 80 miles, and they life flighted her. And we were so far out that the oil rigs were having to relay our calls to Coast Guard. And so, and some oil rigs were telling us we needed to take her to their oil rig, and they have a medic, but Coast Guard said just keep going, and we met them. And even when Coast Guard got there with life flight, I kept the boat going at a certain degree at 20 miles per hour, and the chopper kept it, and they lowered down a rescue swimmer as we're going that speed, and then a basket, and raised her up and took her off. And they were thinking that she was going to be gone too, not going to make it. And they called her family saying to come say their last goodbyes. But somehow when they got her back in that chamber, she came back too and made a full recovery.
Good, man. Wow. That's pretty hardcore, especially when you're that far out there, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Thank God that we've got the Coast Guard to, bail us out of a lot of those situations.
Yeah.
How about tournaments, man? Are you guys involved in a lot of those? Do they have a lot of spearfishing tournaments?
Yeah, the tournaments are bigger in Louisiana and Florida, really all over where spearfishing is a little bit bigger of a sport. Mm-hmm. I have a friend down here that's hosted one this year. The weather was fairly bad for it though, so it wasn't a huge turnout, but he's putting it on again earlier next year. Okay. And so we'll have weigh-in at Surfside, and then a weigh-in in Corpus Christi also.
Yeah, I live right outside of Corpus Christi here in Portland, and I never seen them do the spearfishing thing, but they do a lot of different tournaments out of Port A and stuff like that. So, mm-hmm. I think if I get started in the whole spearfishing thing, it's probably going to be around the jetties and stuff like that. What would be a good gun for something like that? I mean, is there a certain? I don't know anything about it. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I would definitely go with at least 100. Well, for the jet, you're going to start out with the jetties.
Yeah, I would think so, man.
That's going to be a little lower visibility, so maybe about an 80 centimeter gun. And I would go with probably a Mako because it's fairly cheap, but a great guns and can still get the job done.
Okay.
And you can order those online for a real good deal. And he can give you everything you need. You just call up the head guy at Mako Spear Guns, and he'll set everything up for you.
Okay. Sounds good, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate your time, and I really thank you for doing this. And where can people get a hold of y'all if they want to check out y'all's operation?
It's www.texasbluewatersafaris.com.
Okay, and that'll have all y'all's contact information and everything on it?
Oh, yeah, it's got it all on there. The phone number is 979-900-6665. And then we're also building a little extreme sports park, adventure park here in Angleton.
Okay.
50-acre adventure park that we're fixing to open up this weekend.
All right.
For off-roading, exotic animal safari, camping, live music.
That sounds cool. I'll have to come check that out, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Are you guys on Facebook or anything?
Yes, it's toughcompound.com or toughextreme.com. Either of those will pull it up.
All right, man. Hopefully everybody come check you guys out, and I'll put some links, on my site, so everybody can find y'all if they're looking at my page too. So.
Okay, great. I appreciate it.
Hey, man. Thank you. Thank y'all for doing this, and well, maybe I'll come see y'all, dude. I don't know about those sharks and all that. I'm gonna have to get over that fear first. But.
Most of our trips, you won't see sharks. That's just on a real hardcore winter spots.
Mm-hmm.
But usually during the summer, not too many sharks. You don't have to worry about them. It's just crystal clear water, calm, not much current, and you rarely see sharks. They usually stay away from us and close. It's the deep water sharks you got to worry about.
All right, man. Okay, bud. Appreciate it. But thanks again, man. Have a good
All right,
night.
no problem.
Thank you. All right, that's Captain Keith Love with Texas Blue Water Safaris. Guys, check him out on Facebook and check out his website. And if spearfishing something you've ever wanted to do, this is a guy to do it with. I'll have some of his links and stuff, videos and everything, alongside the audio clip of this episode at my website, which is www.theoutsidewithin.squarespace.com. So check it out. And stay tuned for another episode coming soon.